Hello, I'm Tony Mangino from TC2, and this is Staying Connected, where we talk about what really matters to enterprise customers navigating today's technology and sourcing decisions. I'm joined today by my colleague, Julie Gardner, and we'll be knocking around a very important question, and that is what happens after the big sourcing win? Good to have you back on the program, Julie.
Thanks, Tony. It's great to be back on Staying Connected.
Julie, now a lot of organizations invest a significant amount of time and resources into a major RFP, renegotiation, or technology transformation event. They capture some meaningful improvements on deal commercials, cost reductions, and operational gains. But then, invariably, after everyone goes back to their day jobs, a surprising amount of that value just starts to slip away.
This happens all the time, Tony. Not because the original sourcing work was poor, but because activity with your strategic suppliers never really stops. Renewals, quotes, transformational changes, billing issues, small negotiations, and your ongoing operational decisions keep happening in between all of your major projects. On top of that, the contract terms, including credits and credit pools that you negotiated, they have to be managed. And in today's environment, where both the vendor account teams and our internal customer teams continue to get smaller and smaller, it means that this becomes more challenging. If you don't stay engaged, the deal economics and the leverage will drift.
And that's really what lifecycle services are about, because the large supplier account teams absolutely depend on that drift. And to be clear, lifecycle services are not a substitute for strategic sourcing or big project work. Lifecycle services are the discipline and really, I'd say, the governance layer that keeps the value of those projects and your deal from eroding in between those significant events.
Now, that's exactly right. So savings and commercial leverage usually don't just disappear overnight, but they tend to erode through really a patchwork of smaller tactical decisions. A new quote just gets accepted without a whole lot of review, or an old circuit doesn't get disconnected after the acceptance of the replacement. You have billing issues that can linger. You may give away your rate review in exchange for a credit that you need to meet your cost reduction targets or your budgets for the year. You can have a renewal date that sneaks up and you aren't prepared. One by one, these types of things are going to chip away at the savings you negotiated and also chip away at your leverage. Lifecycle services really help enterprise customers to maintain a strategic structure around these types of moments. The goal is not to turn every small issue into a major initiative. The goal is to have sufficient governance in place, market awareness, and commercial discipline so that your organization doesn't give back the value that you worked so hard to create. Lifecycle services should save money and keep you better prepared.
Now, for enterprise customers, this really matters because most environments are too dynamic to be managed only through these big bang efforts every couple of years. The day to day commercial reality still needs attention. Otherwise, the enterprise can end up just recreating the same conditions that precipitated the major sourcing event in the first place.
Yes, and that's especially true in categories like telecom, managed services, mobility, TIM or telecom expense management, and software deals. Technology and supplier positions keep evolving, and market pricing moves while billing complexity increases. Internal ownership changes. Customers often think their internal teams or their telecom expense management firm is going to catch all their billing issues, and that's just rarely the case. If there's not a disciplined and proactive lifecycle management rhythm, the customer becomes reactive again instead of proactive in the management of their environments.
Julie, what does a strong life cycle model actually look like?
It starts with the idea that ongoing support should fit the enterprise's actual needs. Some organizations need targeted benchmarking and quote reviews. Some need periodic rate reviews. Some may need billing audits, dispute support, contract compliance checks, or renewal tracking. The key is that the model stays close enough to your environment to identify the issues and opportunities early so that you can maintain market awareness without turning every issue into a full standalone project.
So, what I'm hearing is lifecycle services are more than just a set of tasks, but really a strategic framework for making better commercial decisions between those big events.
Exactly. Lifecycle management does not have to be bureaucratic, but it does need to be intentional. It should define who owns the renewal visibility, who reviews supplier quotes, who validates whether changes align with the contract, who escalates unresolved billing or performance issues, and how often the enterprise refreshes its views of the market. Without this structure, even a good agreement can become disconnected from how the environment's actually used, built, changed, and managed. And that's when suppliers regain their leverage and the customer starts making decisions under pressure again.
And that makes a big difference, especially in preserving posture with suppliers.
It does. Suppliers definitely behave differently when they know the customer has current and relevant market benchmarks, understands the contract mechanics, validates charges, and is prepared to challenge weak positions. This is not about being adversarial, it's about being ready.
Julie, what kind of value does this create over time?
A few things. First, it preserves savings by preventing that drift that we talked about. Second, it reduces internal drag because teams can get faster answers on whether a proposal or a supplier position is reasonable. Third, it improves your renewal readiness because the enterprise is not discovering or rediscovering its environment from scratch every time a contract event appears. And fourth, it creates cumulative value. Small interventions add up. A rate review here, a billing correction there, a quote challenge, a targeted negotiation, better renewal timing, a clearer governance cadence. Over time, these types of activities produce significant financial impact.
It also seems like thoughtful lifecycle management changes the conversation internally. Instead of scrambling when a supplier pushes a deadline or presents a proposal, the customer has a more predictable way to respond.
Yes, and that is a big benefit. Strong lifecycle management gives IT, sourcing, finance, vendor management, and legal a shared operating rhythm. The organization knows what's coming, knows what needs attention, and which issues are commercially material enough to act on.
All right, Julie, what should customers ask if they're thinking about how to keep a stronger commercial posture between those major projects?
Plenty of questions, but I would start with these four. First, where do we typically lose value after a major sourcing event? Second, do we have a model for quote reviews for benchmarking? Do we monitor the renewals, the billing reviews, and the issue escalations, or are we handling all of these things ad hoc? Third, if a major renewal or an issue surfaced tomorrow, would we be ready? Or would we be rebuilding the baseline under pressure? And fourth and last, who owns the ongoing commercial health of the agreement after the contract is signed?
Okay, Julie, so the flip side then, what should customers avoid?
I would say avoid assuming the hard work is over once the contract is signed. Avoid letting the supplier define what is normal between major initiatives and trusting that your account team fully understands your contract, particularly those contracts that contain complex pricing or credit structures. Avoid treating every issue as too small to matter and avoid confusing informal communications with your account teams as opposed to meaningful governance. Meetings alone do not preserve value, a disciplined process does.
And that's the key takeaway. The big sourcing win is important, but it's not self sustaining. Enterprise customers preserve value and save money when they stay close to the details that matter between these major events.
Right. And the benefit's not just defensive. Life cycle discipline makes the next big move stronger because the enterprise starts from a cleaner baseline, a better commercial position, and a governance model that keeps your stakeholders aligned before the pressure hits. It also means you keep your finance team happy because you manage your costs proactively.
It's absolutely right, Julie. And thank you so much for joining me today on Staying Connected. And to our listeners, if you'd like to discuss how TC2's lifecycle services can help you preserve value between major sourcing events, or if you'd like to discuss other technology strategy, sourcing, and cost reduction needs with Julie, me, or any of our TC2 and LB3 colleagues, please give us a call or shoot us an email. You can also stay current by subscribing to Staying Connected, by checking out our websites, and by following us on LinkedIn.